Welcome to Mindset Mastery Moments, the best growth mindset podcast recognized by Million Podcasts and ranked as a top mindset podcast by FeedSpot. We're proud to be in the top 1% on Listen Notes. Join Dr. Alisa Whyte as we explore powerful insights and strategies to elevate your mindset. Let's dive in.
All right, let's talk truth for a moment. We're living in a world where people are doing all the right things, working harder, reading books, hiring the coaches, trying to stay positive, and yet they're exhausted, mentally overloaded, emotionally depleted, and quietly asking themselves, why does success still feel so heavy? Here's the reality most people don't want to confront. This isn't a motivation problem, and it isn't a discipline problem. This isn't even, surprise, surprise, a mindset problem. In the way we've been taught that it is a brain problem. Because when your brain is overstressed, under-recovered, and constantly in survival mode, no amount of hustle, kumbaya, affirmations, vision boards can save you. And that's why today's conversation matters. Because happiness isn't a personality trait, believe it or not. Focus isn't a character flaw. And burnout is not the cost of ambition either. They are all signs from your brain. And today, we're going to break it down. My guest today is someone who doesn't just talk mindset, she trains the brain behind it. I'm speaking about the gorgeous Dr. Michelle Odette Green. She is a brain health trainer, happiness coach, neuroencoding specialist, and the founder of Success in Action Institute. She helps people think better, feel better, do better, and ultimately have better by combining neuroscience, intentional living, and practical mindset tools that actually work in real life. She is also the author of Be Successful for Life, Elevate Your Thoughts, Words, Actions, and Results. You see the Think, Speak, Do, Become? And she's also a contributing author to the Moral Compass. But what I love most about her work is this. She doesn't make happiness mystical, and she doesn't make success complicated, and she doesn't shame people for just being human. She teaches people how to train their brain so life stop feeling like a constant uphill climb. You know what else I also love about her? We're going to drop this in here, a few letters. It's called J and T DNA. She is one of my sisters from the John Maxwell Leadership Team, now called the Maxwell Leadership Team, Dr. Michelle Odette Green. I welcome you, my dear loving sister. It's been months we've been planning this, and I'm so finally glad we're here. Welcome to Mindset Mastery Moments. In your own words, tell us who you are, what you do, and why you do it.
Thank you so much. I am so happy to be here this evening. Well, as a person who has had many challenges in life, from my brain health, from being unfulfilled from the inside out, being unhappy and not knowing why, I went on a quest to try to figure this thing out. I remember one day, I was so sad. I was at the peak of my career. I was driving the Mercedes Benz. I was dressed to the nines, married, beautiful home, kids. And one day I sat in my Mercedes and I just cried. I cried. I was like, Lord, something is off. Is this as good as it gets? Like something is wrong. And I cried out to the Lord to help me that day. And that was when I really started getting into personal development and understanding how I functioned as a human being. Because as you mentioned, so many people are overwhelmed, they're stressed. And if you look at the world around us, yes, inflation, wars, government shutdown, yes, it's open again. However, so much has happened just with that shutdown. They said inflation went up. Listen, I went on a cruise, and when I came back, I'm looking at the prices of everything, and I'm like, what happened? I was just off the grid for 8 days. And with that, people are feeling it in their pocketbooks. Again, going back to they're feeling overwhelmed and stressed. And that's why I do what I do. I am a brain health trainer, and I help people understand how to optimize their brain health. I also teach people how to be happy from the
Mm.
inside out, and it's not predicated on outside circumstances. And then I love,
Right.
love, love talking
Yes.
about infinite possibilities. And with all three of those combinations, again, I'm helping people to think better, to feel better so that they can do better and they can have more in their life. And so I want to go to the brain health. We want to talk about the brain health
Mhm.
because when your brain works right, your life works so
Mm.
much better. You are happier.
Yes.
You are healthier. You
Mhm.
are actually richer. But when your brain
Mm.
does not work right, you are poorer, you are sicker,
Mm.
and you
Mm.
are unhappy. And why are
Mm.
you more unhappy and why are you poor? Because you're making bad decisions. When your brain is not functioning
Mm.
right, you're making unhealthy decisions. And when I train people,
Yes.
I teach them that and we unpack it. So it's not just something that I say, we actually go through processes, assessments, and just drilling down so that they can see how they're making unhealthy decisions. Because what's happening, people are coping and they're using coping mechanisms
Mm.
that are not healthy for them. And when I say coping mechanisms
Right.
that are not healthy for them, I'm gonna show you something real quick. This cell phone,
Mhm.
you know,
Ooh,
it is a
yes.
convenience, but it can become
Mhm.
unhealthy. People get on it and they start doom scrolling because what they're trying to do is to get their
That's
mind
good.
off of whatever is or isn't happening in their lives. They are getting this dopamine
Yes.
hit, so they think it's making them feel better, but you're actually impacting your brain. You're impacting the
Mm.
neurochemicals in your brain. And
Oh,
I want to break
yes.
that down too when I get to the happy for no reason perspective. So with your brain health, when you know how to optimize your brain, because we have what is called neurochemicals, and those neurochemicals, they go up and down, up and down. And that's okay because that's how we function as far as the neurochemicals going up and down. But here's the thing about that. When you understand how to activate the neurochemicals so that you can feel better, and
Mhm.
when you feel better, you're actually helping your brain. So I want to
Mm.
actually break that down a little bit more, and then I'm going to turn it back over to you. So let me break that down a little bit more. When we talk about the stress and the overwhelm and the not stopping and all of that, your brain is the most hungry organ in your brain is your
Wow, I didn't
silent
know this.
driver. Yes, it
Yes.
is. It weighs about 2%, but it takes up about 20% of the calories when you consume whatever you consume, liquids, foods, or what have you. But here's the thing, and I want to take it to leaders right now, and it applies across the board. Because your
Mhm.
brain actually is your decision maker, your prefrontal cortex, specifically, that's your judgment center. That's your cop in your head. That's the one that helps you to make sound, reasonable, logical decisions. And
Yes.
when your prefrontal cortex goes offline, you got to know how to get it back online so that you can make those good decisions. An
Yes.
example would, if you are an executive and you have to make a lot of decisions, say over the course of the day, I call them brain breaks. It is important that you take
Mm.
brain breaks so that you can fuel your brain because your brain eats up
Mm.
glucose. And so when you are making these decisions and you're working hard, if you're not taking brain breaks, that puts stress, extra stress on your brain. So taking those brain breaks, and we'll talk about some strategies
About
further
what
on in
yeah,
the
we
show,
will. Yeah, of course.
definitely, because it's
Wow.
important to know when you take those brain breaks, it's going to help you to be more effective. And then going to being happy from the inside out. As I mentioned, there was a time when I was so unhappy and I just didn't know why.
Mhm.
Because from the outside looking in, you would think that I had it
You
going
have
on.
everything.
I look good, I smell good, I dress wonderful, great cars, so on and so forth. Executive making six figures, everything looks great from the outside. But again, being unfulfilled in the inside. And so just
Mm-hmm.
learning how to take responsibility for my life was key. And that's the key right there. Learning how to take
Yes.
100% responsibility for your life. And
Mm.
are you being a victim or are you being a victor? So being a victor or being a victim, I realized that I was in this victimhood mode. And how did I realize I was in a victimhood mode? Because it was all about the external, what they did to me, what they said about me. And then I was blaming, I was shaming, I was complaining. And not only was I doing it about other people, but I was doing it to myself. It was like, oh, they're doing this to me. And once I found out that's being a victim, that's victimhood. And so it's like, okay, well,
Yes.
how do I get out of
Yes.
this victimhood mentality and start taking responsibility
Mm-hmm.
for my life? And it comes down to that decision, taking 100% responsibility for your life. And that means that any and everything that you deal with, you're taking responsibility for it. Now, it doesn't mean that things won't happen to you, because things will happen to you, the people you love, all of the above. But it's about how you respond to those things. Reactive, or are you responding with grace, calmness, love, all of the above? And so once I start really understanding and mastering my emotional intelligence, my mindset, my psychology, once I really start understanding that, life start improving for me. And as a result, I find myself growing and getting more opportunities, being exposed to so much and being sought after. And I love that part because I'm like, my phone ring,
Mm.
hey, we got this opportunity. Are you interested? But it was because I
Right.
took 100% responsibility for my life. And so now I just talked a little bit about brain health. When your brain works right, your life works so much better because you're making better decisions. I did talk a little bit about the neurochemicals going up and down. And once you understand your neurochemicals and know how to manage them, then you got power. Let me just put it that way, because awareness, now you're being aware, and awareness is everything to me. That's real power. I do say that your thoughts are powerful and your words are powerful, all of that. And I just want to make sure that I add the piece that awareness is really more powerful than those. Because when you are aware of the underlying structure of how you function, when you understand how you became who you are, once you have that awareness, you can decide what you want to keep and what you want to throw away and what you want to add. So awareness is so powerful to me. And so going back to just how we function as human beings, it really comes down to how we think is how we feel. How we feel is what we will do.
Yes.
And what we do will dictate
Yes.
the results that we will have in our life.
Good.
So understanding
Speaking to the
that
choir,
is
yes.
key. Number one, awareness. Number two, how you think, knowing that your thoughts dictate your feelings, and knowing that your feelings dictate your actions, and knowing that your actions produce results. And I also love
Yes.
to make sure that I add a piece on choice, because choice is so important. So once you start thinking a thing and you start feeling a thing, you really have a choice. That's a choice point. What are you going to do? What are you going to do about however you're feeling? I also like to give an example here. So if you think about when you're thinking about something sad, typically you can think about something happy and this will happen, but I'm going to talk about it from the sad perspective. So if you're thinking about something sad, and I'm asking Now, what normally happens? What normally happens?
A lot of times you start to get a little bit of a headache, you feel tired, you sometimes end up with well, not you, I would say me. I sometimes end up having like a little bit of a stomach ache. I'm not very aware of what's happening around me. I'm sort of detached from the environment I'm in, and I'm like in another alternate universe that's happening while the world seems to be happening. So yeah, that's what happens, yeah, with me, and I'm saying me.
Yes. And so all of that is happening just based on you having those sad thoughts. And what's also happening underneath that is that you're activating the chemicals to support that mood and what you're thinking. Because if you are
Mhm.
sad, can't sleep, you're having pains in your stomach, you're activating, as an example, cortisol in your body. And so if you're activating
Yes.
that cortisol in
Yes.
your body, then you're having those side effects associated with that activation of the cortisol.
Mhm.
And so
Mhm.
if you think
Mhm.
happy thoughts, what normally happens? If you think really great happy thoughts,
You feel
what
light and
happens?
airy, energized. You feel light and airy, energized. You feel sort of like unstoppable-ish, you know? Like I can do anything. Everything's going great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes. So you're activating those feel good chemicals, that dopamine. And dopamine, you want to get it in
Mhm.
like doses, because dopamine, if you activate it too much, you get people who really activate it in unhealthy ways. The thing there is that you're activating those happy chemicals, dopamine, the serotonin, the oxytocin, all of those. You're
Mhm.
activating those. So
Mhm.
again, they're not meant to be
Mhm.
on all the time. But if you find
Right.
yourself where your mood, for instance, if your mood is dipping down and you have that awareness, I'm starting to feel a particular way, and you understand
Mhm.
that, okay, let me look at my thoughts. What am I thinking? And then, okay, what am I
Mm.
feeling? Or what just happened to cause me to feel this way or think this way? Because the quickest way that you
Mm.
can actually activate those chemicals is by the language. What are you saying to yourself? What are you saying? I'm so big on self-talk, and that's
Mm.
that's a tool. I'm so big on self-talk. What are you
Yes.
saying?
Yes.
How are you moving? You slumped over? Are you sitting down? Are you closed up? Are you woe is me kind of posture? Or are you, opening up? Because when you open up, believe it or not, when you are expansive, when you are, say for instance, if you're feeling bad, one thing you can do is get up and you can move around, and that movement will help you start feeling better. Trust me, I do it all the time.
Yes.
Because these
Yes.
are
That's
strategies
why
that I
that's why
learned as a
workout is like
result.
medicine. Yes.
Exactly,
I move
and
around from
when
my
you're
desk. I move around at my desk.
yes, and you're activating endorphins. And endorphins are actually our natural
Mhm.
painkillers. So it's a good thing. A good belly laugh will activate those endorphins, serotonin, all
Yes,
of
it
that.
would.
Of course, through our food, we can activate those chemicals. So our nutrition is very important. And so that's something we can talk
Mhm.
about as well. But I'm not going to get so much into that, but I just want to say that has an effect on how our neurochemicals activate. Now, here's the thing about
Mm.
that as well. When we activate, for instance, cortisol, there are times when it's necessary. When you need to get up and run, you don't need to think. Your prefrontal cortex does not need to be trying to rationalize, do I need to get up and run? Your amygdala has switched on
You need
and
that
it has
cortis.
told you you need the cortisol, get your butt out of there, right? And once you get to safety, then there are things you can do to start calming yourself back down, to dial down the cortisol so it can metabolize through your body. So, deep breathing, breathing exercises, you can do that. You can do some tapping, you can do some bilateral stimulation. So there are many tools and techniques to help you to metabolize that cortisol. And so, we can talk about that too when we get more into techniques. So now, so
Yes,
just
this is
going
so
back
good.
to,
I love this stuff.
yes, going back to the brain health, I will give you a link that the viewers can utilize to do a brain health assessment. And that brain health assessment will tell you the health of your brain, so to speak. And I say so to speak because without really looking, doing like a SPEC scan, and that's just a fancy way of saying they look at your brain and they measure your blood flow. Is your blood flow, is it moving the way it should? Is it working too hard on one part of the brain versus the other, so on and so forth. The assessment, I should say, Dr. Daniel Amen, who I was trained under as a brain health trainer, he actually has done thousands of scans on individuals, and they are a little costly. So what he did develop is an assessment, a brain health assessment that you can take to determine the health of your brain. And at the end of that assessment, it actually gives you a game plan to improve your brain. So even if your brain is a balanced type brain, which is brain type 1, which I happen to be a brain type 1, which is the best brain type, if you will.
Wow.
So even at a
I
brain
didn't
type
know you had
1,
brain types. I didn't know there were brain types. What?
yes. So take that assessment, and so you'll learn the health of your brain. And even at a
Yeah.
1, you still get strategies on how to further optimize your brain to make sure that you have a balanced brain. And pretty much just the brain type 1 just really means that you really have more emotional intelligence, that you do things to really take care of your brain and optimize your brain.
Naturally that way.
Yeah, so really that's what that's all about. And you're not as spontaneous as some of the other brain types, meaning that you're not going to go bungee jumping because you're thinking about, oh, what's that going to
Oh,
do to my brain?
so your brain, so it's not necessarily that people are necessarily always afraid. Their brain just doesn't permit them to take that level of risk. I got a lot of questions for
Exactly.
you, sis. How many
I
brain
have a lot of
types are
answers for
there?
you. So there are 16 brain types identified by Dr. Amen.
Okay.
16. So there's
Okay.
there's combinations, but there's really 5 basic types.
Right.
So I encourage you and the viewers to take your brain health assessment, and you will thank me for it. You will definitely thank me for it.
Okay.
And so,
I love
yeah,
that. And how does that work for relationships? Is that something they discuss about how you are to relate with people based on your brain type?
yes. So I'm glad you asked. Actually, Dr. Daniel Amen, I have none of his books in front of me, but there are a couple of his books. Really, Change Your Brain, Change Your Life is one that I recommend. And it does talk about how couples can actually use their brain type to ensure that they have a healthy relationship. So yes, so definitely
wow.
that is
Change your brain, change
discussed.
your life.
And yes, Change Your Brain, Change Your Life. And that book came out, the first edition came out around 2003, 2004, somewhere around there. That's when I first learned of Dr. Daniel Amen, because I was working with young adults. And back then, we really didn't call it mental health the way that it is talked about today. But I served as the center director for Urban Job Corps Center, and we had a wellness center, and I had a psychiatrist and a psychologist on staff. And so my kids, my babies, which I call them, they were being medicated. They were being medicated at a rate that I just thought was not really healthy. And I wanted to find ways to provide them with natural remedies to improve their brain. And Dr. Daniel Amen happened to have a PBS special at that particular time. I happened to be watching it, and I was like, yes, this is exactly what I've been looking for. Now, Dr. Daniel Amen, he is a double board certified psychiatrist. He doesn't practice psychiatry in the traditional way. He is first nutrition, if you will, exercise, self-talk, all of the above before he will medicate. Now, if a person is having some kind of psychotic episode or what have you, of course, he's going to medicate them to calm them
Mhm.
down. If you are just
Mhm.
having small trouble in your life, because truly when your brain is not functioning, you start having more trouble in your life. And he looks at that you can develop
Wow.
skills again to actually improve the health of your brain without medication. Now, I do want to say I am not a doctor and medical doctor, if you will. I have a doctorate
In
in
medicine,
educational
right?
leadership. So I want to make sure that our viewers know if you are on some type of medication,
Yes,
please do not stop your medication based on what I am saying. That is something that you and your doctor would have
exactly.
to work through if you choose to go that route. I just know that
Exactly.
there are better ways to actually improve the health of your brain, and you can do it through diet, exercise, vitamins, and the way that you think, the way that you actually your self-talk and the way that you think. And so with that in mind, I can talk a lot because I still want to talk about happy for no reason, but I do want to turn it back
Yeah.
over to you so that you may have some questions based on what I've said up through this point.
Oh yeah, you're feeding us and feeding us good. One of the underscores that I don't know how many of our listeners and viewers, some of our regulars that's been along with me for the journey from start to now. I think we're now, I don't know, this might be episode 180 or something. That I suffered a brain injury. I guess I was, and that's the part I don't really know if I was 14 or 16. Sometimes I forget. And I had a total memory loss. And so I had a psychiatrist. I was sharing the other day on a podcast that I had a psychiatrist when I was younger. And that's why I had one, because I had suffered this brain injury and they had to bring me back. Now, I was living in Guyana, South America at the time. And the doctor that came back from here to serve me there, especially to serve me in Guyana. And then I also had a psychiatrist there, the one and only one, Dr. Prasad. I don't know where in the world he is now, but he said that that was the final diagnosis, that I had damaged tissues in my brain. And he did not know, there's no way for them to tell what recovery would look like for me. However, it was a year of that. And then I couldn't walk, point. I didn't know what things were. I lost my memory entirely. My mom says that my memory went back to like when I was like 3 or 2 because of the way I spoke, things I didn't know. I was learning items all over again, and I was asking for things that were my childhood. So that's how that affected me. However, I started to be able to learn to walk again. And then they had this program, I forgot what it was called. It's right there at the tip of my tongue, but I went through another program outside of my psychiatric treatment to help me with memory. And that really did help. So my brain ended up getting rewired and reprogrammed. That's why I'm the number one mindset disruptor, because I've been on this train of brain development, human development from then on to help myself recover, and then move into a space where I realize even if you didn't suffer a brain injury, stress, trauma, because that's the other thing that was compounded. The way that I suffered that brain injury was at the hands of a family member. So there was a lot of trauma happening. It was a traumatic experience as well. So you couple the physical injury with the emotional and mental stress I was enduring for years, right? And the environment I was in. Now you had a catastrophe. So they had to differentiate how I was affected, whether it was trauma and stress that was causing it, or it was the physical injury and what degree listen, while it was not mental health, it was brain, right? So here's the thing I'm going to ask you to
Yes.
do for us, Dr. Michelle, is most people hear the word mental health, but they don't hear brain health. Can you explain the difference and why that distinction matters so much?
Yes, yes, yes. So I am going to explain it from my perspective. And I always encourage individuals to actually do research as well.
do the
So
research.
so brain health really is how your brain is functioning. And so, as an example, you can be mildly dehydrated and your brain will not function optimally. And you can have brain fog. You can be forgetful just because you are not dehydrated. And if you are forgetful, again, your brain is just not functioning well. Someone could label that as mental health. Oh, that person has a mental problem. Now, you had a traumatic
Mm-hmm.
brain injury. And with a traumatic brain
Mm-hmm.
injury, your neurons were really affected. And when you talk about you lost the ability to walk, you lost memory and all of that. Thank
Talk.
God for
To talk, yeah.
science, neuroscience, because
Uh,
with neuroplasticity, we know that you can actually rewire your brain, and that's what you were able to do.
and I'm
Now, with mental health, yes, exactly. With mental health, that's more of really a chemical imbalance in the brain, a chemical imbalance where people do
mm-hmm.
have bipolar disorder, if you will. So that's
Yeah.
distinct from brain health. Brain health is really how are you taking care of your brain and how is it affecting your thinking, your life, etc. Mental health is where
Mm-hmm.
you really do have some challenges with the schizophrenia, with the bipolar, all of those things are real things, okay? And,
Mm-hmm.
notwithstanding, some people in the religious world, spiritual world, they would just say that's the devil. That's just the devil, right?
Exactly. Nowadays, you're
However,
right. That's what they say.
you're right. So the real distinction is some people think they have mental health issues when really it's just a brain health issue. If you start
Mm-hmm.
exercising, if you start taking omega-3s, if you are hydrated, then you could see your problems that you're having with your brain and your cognition or what have you. You can see those things go away and you'll realize, oh, I
Mm.
really didn't have a mental health problem. Also, another thing that I want to say, I have a friend recently who he almost went into a diabetic coma. His blood sugar level went
Mm.
down such that if they end up doing a welfare check on him and then they were able to, help him recover. But in the first few days from that, it was like he didn't
Mm-hmm.
know who you were. It was like he couldn't string sentences together. And they started believing that he had
Mm.
early stages of dementia or Alzheimer's. But it was the fact that he hadn't been hydrated. So they finally got him hydrated.
Wow.
His medication was off. And so all his functioning seemed that he was having some mental health issues when it was he needed to be hydrated. He does take medication, so the medication needs to be stabilized. And now he's fine. He's back to himself. But prior to him being hydrated, it was like he didn't know what was up or what was down. And so the bottom line to my
Mm.
explanation as far as what is mental health versus what is brain health is really doing things to make sure that you don't harm your brain. Brain is
Mm.
housed in a spiny skull. Consistency of your brain is like soft butter or like jello. And any jarring of your brain, those ridges, they're hitting up against that softness. It can cause damage. And in your case, where you have the TBI, that's exactly what happened. More than likely is that those bony ridges actually impacted that soft squishy brain. When you resolve those things, then you'll see that it's not mental health. It's just a brain health issue.
So the follow-up question to that one is, how does overstressed brain, Dr. Michelle, impact focus and emotional regulation and decision making, especially for leaders and entrepreneurs? Because we got a lot of them listening.
Yes, well, it impacts it tremendously because, again, your brain is the most hungriest, that's the best way I know how to say it, organ in your body, and
Yeah.
it burns through glucose really, really fast. And so if you are stressed and overwhelmed, then you're activating the cortisol neurochemical in your body. And when you activate that, that actually constricts blood flow. And you need that blood flow for your brain. Between the oxygen and the blood flow, you need that. You need the glucose. And when you're stressed and overwhelmed, it is not functioning. It's not getting to your brain properly. And then you're making bad decisions. And so that's why I recommend brain breaks. And what is a brain break? Every 60 minutes to 90 minutes, you're taking a break. You're getting up, you're moving, you're walking, you're making sure that you have something to drink or something to eat. Now, even say, for instance, if you have a task and you are focused on that task for that 90 minutes, even in that 90-minute interval, if you have a healthy drink that you can drink, most people, they want to reach for the Coke or the Snickers or, something that's not as healthy for you. You want to take a sip of that, or you want to take a bite of something, have some blueberries or some nuts or something around to help you keep your glucose levels up, because your brain needs that, especially when you're making decisions that have a significant impact on you, your organization, because your decisions are far-reaching as leaders. And so it's so important to do that. And when you get up, let me go to the strategy of get up, doing some movement. It doesn't have to be exercise. It's just some movement. You're actually getting that oxygen flowing through your body, and it's helping to help you de-stress, because that's the whole point. You want to be able to de-stress throughout your day. So you need to do things to de-stress. Going outside, looking at nature. Believe it or not, just having plants around you in your office. And if you can't have plants around you, having a picture that's a tree or plants, just being able to see that greenery actually has a calming effect on you. And so I do recommend, when you have to make like really tough decisions, you want to do that when you are fresh. So if that is the top of the morning, you want to do it when you are fresh. Don't do it when you're stressed, because typically you're not making the best decisions when you're stressed and when you're overwhelmed. Prioritizing your work, prioritizing your activities will help decrease the overwhelm and the stress. I love to not just do the to-do list, but the high priority list. What are the high priorities? And once you can knock those things off, believe it or not, that cuts down on the overwhelm and the stress. And so again, when you are in those states, your brain is not operating optimally, and you can make bad decisions, or you can find yourself lashing out at people. And so it's so important to have that awareness. And it takes time to build up, because again, if you've been operating in a particular manner for so long, just to change it overnight, it can happen. Now, I'm not saying that it can't happen, because we do have significant emotional events that change us in the instant. Most times that's not the case. So it takes time, but it's through that awareness and understanding tips and tricks and tools to help you to be better so that you can do better. Again, my job is to help people to think better, feel better, do better, so that they can have better.
They can have better. So
Yeah.
I love that. So you often say that happiness is not a mood, it's a trained state. Can you break that down for us too, Dr. Michelle?
Absolutely, absolutely. Just like an athlete, a high performer, high achiever, just like they train to be at those peak levels, you got to train yourself to be happy. And here's the thing about that, is that that's an inside job. Nobody can do it for you. And what's more about that, it's about being happy no matter what. So that's what I really teach. How do you be happy? And it's not predicated on outside circumstances. It's not predicated on, the fancy home, the car, so on and so forth. It's predicated on just being grateful for what you do have. And some techniques that I teach for really being happy from the inside out is one, savoring. So savoring the good stuff around you. Savoring takes about 20 to 30 minutes to really register in your brain, to start rewiring your brain for more positive and more optimism. So being optimistic, I'm more of the optimistic. It's just that you're able to see more options. And so, it's not all about you just got to be rah-rah and just positive and just, all day walking around with a smile, which I do recommend. Smile a lot.
Right.
Because
Yes,
that does.
smile and look up. Yep.
Yes, smile
Does
and look
help.
up, because that helps you a lot. So another thing as far as being happier from the inside out is looking for the good, literally looking for the good, because where your focus goes, that's where the energy is going to go. And so if you're looking for what's wrong, you're going to find what's wrong, and you're going to find more of what's wrong. So looking for the good is so important.
Yes.
Then I like to also practice a 3-to-1 ratio. 3-to-1 ratio means that if I see something that's not so positive or is not good, then I look at, okay, how can I interrupt the pattern of thinking like that, and what can I do? And I go for a 3-to-1 ratio, meaning for everything that I see that's negative, then I try to flip it on its head or find 3 positive things that I can say, oh, well, that wasn't so good, but this is good, or that's good, or that's good. A 3-to-1, 4-to-1 is even good. And then I just want to point out that being happy from the inside out, if you understand the fact that we all have a happiness set point, we're all born with a happiness set point. Believe it or not, we can affect 90% of that. So 10% environment, 40% genetics, and then the other 50% is really about how we treat ourselves, how we talk to ourselves. So we have upwards of 90% of influence on our happiness, and scientists have cracked this code. So I'm not just coming up with these numbers, but scientists have literally cracked the code on that. And so going back to that awareness, let me tell you, awareness is power. So we all have, when you think about your thermostat in your house and you want it at a certain temperature, and when you get to, if that temperature, your house is set at that point. But if you go above that, it's going to come down, or if you go below it, it's going to come up. So to get back to that set point, if you will. But again, if your happiness set point is low, those couple of techniques that I just told you, looking for the good, savoring, and your 3-to-1 ratio, that's going to help you start to develop new neural pathways in your brain, because that's all really neuroscience is about. It's about the nervous system and how do you develop new neural pathways in your brain. And that's what I mentioned earlier about neuroplasticity. Science have understood, since the probably late 1990s, upwards to 2000s, how you can rewire your brain. There used to be that saying, you can't teach an old dog new tricks.
Yes.
Well, that's not the case, right? And that is not true. And, you are a living, breathing, walking testament to that. You had to go through that process of rewiring your brain, reprogramming your brain. And so we know that it can be done. And so pretty much being happy from the inside out is just having that peace that passes all understanding, that is not predicated on outside circumstances. It's like I say, when things are not going my way, I say, if it's happening for my higher good. So what is the lesson and what is the gift in this? And if we stay optimistic, then we can see what the lesson and the gift is in any situation. And we can sit back and say, okay, now I like to sit back and say, okay, Lord, what are you doing here? Because if it's happening, you're teaching me something, and it's happening for my higher good. Things are happening for me, not to me. And so I've come to realize that if we look back over our lives, the things that we have come through, that's a muscle that we built. That's the resilience that we have within us. And I like to say, put together a resilience book. You have your gratitude. I typically will even speak out loud throughout the day, things I'm grateful for, and write down a minimum of 3 things that I'm grateful for. Well, you can write down things that you've overcome, and you'll be like, yes, I was resilient there. What I've learned about myself is that I'm stronger than I thought I was. I'm more courageous than I thought I was. All of the above. Yes. And so I want to turn it back over to you, and we can unpack my answer a little bit more if you would like to.
Yeah, I have a follow-up question to that. If someone's listening right now and they feel a little bit overwhelmed or scattered or constantly on edge, what are one of the 2 simple daily practices that you would like for them to implement to support their brain and nervous system?
So a couple of things that I would definitely recommend. Number 1, it starts the night before. When you get ready to go to sleep at night, you want to go to sleep as calm and as peaceful as you can. So meaning that you want to think about all the good things that happen throughout the day, because believe it or not, whatever you go to sleep thinking about at night, 9 times out of 10, you're going to dream about it, and you're going to wake up in the morning with those thoughts. And so I always go through a process where I'm practicing gratitude. I do my prayers, and I think on the good things. And I wake up in the morning, and when I get up, I jump out of bed. I do a little stretching before I get out of bed, say my prayers, kind of meditate before I get out the bed. But when I get out the bed, I say it is going to be a great day. And I recommend that people say that it's going to be a great day, because here's the thing. When you tell your brain something, it goes to work looking for that thing. So now you're commanding that it's going to be a great day. So now you're going to be looking for all the things that make it great. And when something comes up that's not so great, you've already told yourself it's a great day. So you're going to handle that in a different fashion. So I recommend having that evening routine and then having a morning routine. And part of what I described to you is part of my morning routine. Also, I keep a glass of water next to my bed, and I drink that water so that I can hydrate myself, because yes, right there. Because it's very important that you are hydrated, because it impacts the functioning of your brain. So those are just a couple of things, couple of more things that I think I should talk about. And that's bilateral stimulation. Bilateral stimulation is really to get you in a whole brain state. So I do have this remote in my hand. So bilateral stimulation, you can just do something in the morning where you're crossing over. I like to take something and I'm throwing it from side to side. Yes. So that. You can do something as simple as, you're crossing over your arms here and you're patting here. So you're just patting. Or what Jim Quick likes to do, he likes to do cross crawls. And the cross crawls are you just doing, you're patting, you're taking one hand and you're patting it over your knee. So you're just kind of patting it back and forth. So you can see me moving back and forth, but I'm actually doing the opposite side. So with that, that's just bilateral stimulation. And when you also feel overwhelmed, and that is a good technique when you feel overwhelmed and stressed, to do some bilateral stimulation, because, there's some controversy that's over this. When you feel like you're being too logical or you're feeling stress, you can do that bilateral stimulation, because that will help you get back into a whole brain state. Because most times when you get too overwhelmed, you're actually like, maybe you're just left side brain, just more logical. It's just everything is logical. But if you get that bilateral stimulation going, it helps calm the centers down in your
activating the other
brain.
side of the brain.
Yes, exactly.
Mhm.
And so that helps to actually calm you down as well.
Wow,
Yes.
that's awesome. So how long does it typically take for someone to feel a shift once they've started working with their brain instead of against their brain? Because this is working with your brain by staying hydrated, eating foods that help to empower your brain instead of shooting yourself up with glucose all the time and being depleted of brain power. How long does it take for someone to feel that shift and see results once they start working with their brain instead of their brain? I
Yes.
mean, instead
So
of against it.
yes, so it varies, it's not a one size fits all type of
Okay.
thing. So it does vary. And I'll say why it varies, because some people are so addicted to not feeling good. Have you heard of people, they say, oh, you just love drama, because they have been activating those unhealthy neurochemicals within their body for so long, to when they start feeling good, they feel like something is wrong. And so they want to go back
Yeah.
to that default setting. So it does take
Mhm.
it does take time depending on the nature of the person. It could be almost immediately, for a few people that I know, when they start getting the right supplements, they start hydrating, drinking more water, getting the movement in, it was almost immediately. And then for others, it took
Mhm.
time, because they would be doing okay, and then something will happen, and then they'll default back, and it's like they have to start all over again. So
Okay.
here's what I will say about that
Mhm.
too. I mentioned self-talk earlier. If you can learn to monitor your self-talk, and when you feel like things are not going well, think about what was I thinking? What was I saying to myself? What was happening in my environment? And if you can drill down on those things, then that also can uncover and help you to actually refocus. There's a 4-part formula that I teach as well, and I don't have time to teach it today, but it's really, this exercise is conditioning yourself so that you can really work on rewiring your brain. So it's an exercise that I teach for people to practice, so that they're practicing and they're determining predetermined things that they can do when they're feeling bad. So it's feel bad, interrupt the pattern, feel good, and then celebrate. And the celebration piece
Mm.
helps rewire your brain quicker and helps you to feel better. Most times people don't stop to celebrate, but when you start seeing that you're making progress, and even if you have hiccups, if you recognize that you have a hiccup and you celebrate that, that helps you to make progress. So when you are starting to
Yes.
make progress and you start celebrating yourself along the way, you can see that you will get better faster. That's the best way I know how to say that. And let me give our audience just a small example of what I mean by the celebration piece. And it doesn't have to be anything big. It could just be a pat on the back. Yes, I did that. Yes, I'm getting better. Yes, I'm feeling better. Think
Acknowledging
about when
that brain
a
training.
baby when a baby is first learning how to walk, if you will. If the baby falls, we typically will encourage the baby to get back up, cheer the baby on so that the baby can get up and start walking again, right? We don't say, you don't know how to do it, you dumb baby. No, we don't do that. We celebrate the progress that the baby is making. And so sooner the baby wants that celebration, and the baby will walk and they'll look at you like, celebrate me. So it's the same thing with us. So every step forward, no matter how small, if we're celebrating ourselves, we're activating those feel-good chemicals, and then we want to feel it even more. And so that's a strategy that you can use on your way to improving your brain health. Again, it's not a one size fits all. I will tell you, if you consistently do the things necessary to improve your brain, you'll start seeing it. And the thing about that is, because it's not a hard and fast thing where you can touch. You just really have to monitor it. There was one point in time in my life where I felt like I was having so many bad days that I decided to chart all of my days, and I realized that outweighed my bad days. And so I would recommend that you chart, that you feel every day, and then you can see the progress that you're making as well. So that is my answer, and I can say more if you would like me to.
Well, you have to come back for another episode because we have to get into those 4 principles you gave us a few minutes ago. I have to do flip the script with you. How is it that you are defining success now that you have mastered the skill set of nurturing your own brain and giving that to people everywhere you go? Because you're really great at it. So what is success to you now?
Yes, thank you so much. Of course, success is very personal to each and every individual. And for me, makes me feel successful, if you will, is to help other people grow. My mission from the 80s was and is to educate and inspire individuals to lead a happy, healthy, and productive life. And I do that through brain health training, through Happy for No Reason training, and talking about infinite possibilities for your life, that if you believe the sky is the limit. And so, and I say the sky is the limit, but of course we don't know how far we can go. But my thing is me learning the information, me applying it to my life. I don't teach theory. I actually apply these things to my life, because knowledge is one thing, but applied knowledge is where the power is. And then giving it away, giving it away to others so that they can give it away to others. And that's what I teach. And the trainings that I do, the coaching that I do, I tell individuals, learn it, apply it, and teach it, and you will keep it. And so that's success to me, seeing other people grow, because, we all have a role in this world. And as you talked about, we talked about, if you will, we all have our individual purpose. Yes. And if we can do good in the world, spread the kindness and the love, and again, it first starts with us taking 100% responsibility for our lives, being the victor and not a victim. Yeah. And so success to me overall is not just about each one teach one, because when you teach that one, it has a ripple effect. And so I'm just on a mission to help millions of people be successful however they define successful in a healthy way. So that is my answer.
I love it. Yes. So Mindset Bites to Go, one of my favorite parts of the show. And this one, we're going to do it in a rapid fire question way. So are you ready to play a little bit with me, Dr. Michelle?
Yes, I am.
Okay, so here we go. I thought about this on the spot. So what is one brain habit that people need to stop doing immediately?
Thinking negative. One brain habit is to seeing the worst in everything. And let me tell you, let me explain that really quick. So Dr. Daniel Amen, he coined it so well. It's automatic negative thoughts. We have automatic negative thoughts because that's how we are wired. So if we understand
your default, you're wired that way.
Yes, if we understand that, then that's where we can flip that 3-to-1 that I was talking about. So if you find yourself going down the rabbit hole, having the negative thought, really, because what's happening, you're actually wiring your brain to look for the negative, to be negative. So that would be one.
Don't reinforce it. What's one daily practice you believe has the highest return on investment for happiness and clarity?
Gratitude. Gratitude for me is everything. Yes, because you're looking at what you have, and where your focus goes, your energy flows, and your results show from that. So just really being grateful every single day, being grateful. I want to tell you this, and I wish I took a picture of the man and with the man. Today I went into a store, and literally this man, he had half a body. He had just his upper torso, and he was in a wheelchair, and he was pushing that wheelchair with his arms. And I thought about that thing, and I'm like, you know what? And he was grateful. Someone held the door for he and I as we were going into the store. And he said, thank you. And so, when you think about this person is still functioning, he still could appreciate somebody opening up the door from him. That's being grateful. And so gratitude to me just changes things. It changes you and it rewires your brain as well. It helps you to be healthier.
It does. It does. Oh my goodness, Dr. Nicole, you're a wealth of information that I love. I can't wait to listen to this episode all over again. But we definitely have to do another episode just on the other principles that we haven't gotten from you. So I'm going to ask you, what's one of your most favorite ways for our listeners and viewers to connect with you, and where we can find your materials and tools that you have for us?
Yes, absolutely. So I am on social media. You can look me up through Dr. Michelle Odette, and I actually have a website, successandactioninstitute.com. That is another way that you can look me up. And you can Google me. So you can Google me and I'll come up.
Yes.
Yeah, all over the place.
They don't have to, because we're going to throw all the links in the description wherever they're listening and watching this, and go take, what is it called? Is it the brain health quiz?
Brain health assessment. Brain health assessment.
The brain health assessment. And I think you have that on your website too, right?
Yes, I do. It is on the website.
So it will be right there for you disruptors, wherever you're listening and watching to the episode. And if this episode spoke to you, here's your takeaway. You don't need to become someone new. You don't need to do more, and you don't need to push harder. You need to train the brain you already have, because when your brain is fully supported, your mindset strengthens, your emotion is stabilized, and your success stops costing you your peace. So always, disruptors, I say, keep mastering your mindset. Think, speak, do, become. I'm Dr. Alisa here with Dr. Michelle, saying see you on the next episode of Mindset Mastery Moments. Bye now.